Hello, so today we're going to discuss about alpha adrenergic receptor blockers. We have two types of adrenergic receptors, alpha receptors and beta receptors, which mediates the sympathetic stimulation. So here we're going to discuss about those drugs that blocks alpha receptors, and subsequently after this we'll be discussing beta receptor blockers. Alpha receptor blockers are of three types: selective alpha 2 blocker, selective alpha 1 blocker, and non selective blockers, which blocks both alpha 1 and alpha 2 receptors. This is the classification given in TARA, but in Tripathi they have given it in a different way, which talks about equilibrium and non equilibrium, where equilibrium refers to non-select reversible, and the other one refers to irreversible. So here we'll go by this. So under non-selective alpha blockers, which blocks both alpha 1 and alpha 2 receptor, we having reversible as well as irreversible. Reversible are phentolamine and tolazolin, and irreversible is phenoxybenzamine. Under selective alpha 1 blocker, we having trazostone, doxazosin, and terazosin. Under selective alpha 2 blocker, we having euhembine, and very important, euhembine is not therapeutically used. General effects of alpha blockers. Alpha blockers on the blood vessels. Let's see how it acts. On the blood vessels, we know we having alpha 1, alpha 2, and beta 1 receptor, where alpha 1 and alpha 2 receptor causes vasoconstriction and beta 1 receptor causes vasodilation. Now, see, as alpha 1 receptor causes vasoconstriction. So, consequently, when you're giving alpha 1 blocker, you see vasodilation there. Venous return is decreased, cardiac output is decreased, you see postural hypotension. Next is reflex tachycardia. On heart, you're having alpha 1 and beta 1 receptor. But beta receptor predominates heart more than alpha receptor. So one thing you need to understand is alpha receptors does not have so much role in when it comes to cardiac stimulation on bronchodilation, etc. Here you see reflex tachycardia when you're giving alpha receptor blockers. You're seeing reflex tachycardia because there is fall in arteriolar pressure. BP reduces, so there is tachycardia. And one more reason, if you are blocking alpha 2 receptors, specifically presynaptic alpha 2 receptors, if you are blocking, there is release of noradrenaline. Okay, now this release of noradrenaline causes sympathetic stimulation, which leads to tachycardia. Okay, next is nasal stiffness due to the blockade of alpha receptors on the nasal blood vessels. Mice is also seen because on the radial muscles of eye you're having alpha 1 receptors. GI motility is increased. See, if you are giving a sympathetic stimulation to GI, you see that the motility is decreased. So you're blocking that activity. Therefore, you can see an increase in GI motility. And remember, on the gastrointestinal tract, you're having alpha 1, alpha 2, and beta 2 receptors. And on the blood vessels, you're having alpha 1, alpha 2, and beta 1 receptor. On the urinary bladder, you see on the detrusor muscle, you're having beta 2 receptor, and on the trigone of the bladder, alpha 1 receptor predominates, which lead to contraction. So, when you're blocking alpha receptor, it leads to maturation. Okay. Now, it is given to the patients with benign prostatic hypertrophy because of two reasons, which we'll be discussing later. And also one more thing is, you see the contraction of vas deferens and all those organs which lead to ejaculation is basically mediated through alpha receptor. So when you're blocking alpha receptor, ejaculation then becomes difficult. It is inhibiting ejaculation, which leads to impotence. Now we are discussing all the alpha receptor blockers one by one. First one, we are discussing about phenoxybenzamine. Phenoxybenzamine is an irreversible non-selective alpha blocker which blocks by forming covalent bond with alpha receptors. The action of phenoxybenzamine, it develops very gradually, but it lasts longer. It lasts for 3 to 4 days until the new alpha receptors are being synthesized. Its action will last. Now we're coming to pharmacological effects of phenoxybenzamine. See, when it comes to phenoxybenzamine, it is having predominant venodilatory effect than an arteriolar dilation effect. So therefore, postural hypotension is so much seen. Next is increased release of noradrenaline from the adrenergic nerve endings due to the blockade of presynaptic alpha 2 receptors. As I said, presynaptic alpha 2 receptors are blocked, it leads to the release of noradrenaline from the adrenergic nerve ending. And what does this do? This leads to tachycardia, palpitation, and cardiac arrhythmias. And also, phenoxybenzamine is lipid soluble. Because it is lipid soluble, it can cross the blood brain and it can cross the blood brain barrier. If you are giving phenoxybenzamine on a rapid IV, it can lead to a lot of side effects like it produces nausea, vomiting, and immediate CNS stimulation and all that. Phenoxybenzamine is usually given orally or on slow IV. It should not be given rapidly. Its action, as I said before, is low in onset, but it has longer duration of action, and it is used to treat pheochromocytoma, secondary shock, and peripheral vascular disease. Side effects of phenoxybenzamine is very evident. You have postural hypertension because of predominant vasodilatory effect. You have tachycardia. You have palpitation. You can have diarrhea. Why is it that you have diarrhea? You are blocking the alpha receptors, which increases the GI motility. Nasal stuffiness because you're blocking the nasal blood vessels. You have impotence. You know why? Because alpha receptor mediates the process, mediates ejaculation, the contraction of vas deferens, and all that. That also leads to giddiness because of the CNS effects. When it comes to pharmacokinetics, when you're giving it orally, it it's not absorbed properly. Its absorption is very incomplete. And also, if you're giving as an injection, intramuscular or subcutaneous injection, it is very painful, and therefore you should not give an IV or I mean you should not give an IM or SC injection, but you can give a slow IV. So dosage is 20 to 40 milligram per day orally, or 1 milligram per kilogram body weight by slow IV over 1 hour. Next is phentolamine. Phentolamine is a reversible non-selective alpha blocker which is given IV. Here it is reversible. Phenoxybenzamine was non-reversible. It competitively blocks the effects of noradrenaline at the sites of both alpha 1 and alpha 2 receptor. Here also venodilation predominates arteriolar dilation, therefore you see postural hypertension as a side effect. It also blocks the 5-HT receptor potassium channel and it causes histamine release from the mast cell, so allergic reaction can be seen. It is given in IV, as I said before. Here it is rapid in onset, shorter in duration. Phenoxybenzamine was slow in onset and longer in duration. It has side effects like tachycardia, palpitation, arrhythmia, and also in this case, myocardial infarction can be precipitated. It is used, you see, when you're giving a noradrenaline as IV infusion, you can see a significant vasoconstriction. So, in order to counteract this vasoconstriction, before you give an injection of before you give an IV infusion of noradrenaline, you give an alpha blocker. So, this alpha blocker counteracts the vasoconstriction. Next is tolizolin. Tolizolin is similar to phentolamine, but it is rarely used. Next is selective alpha 1 blocker. So far we've been learning non-selective alpha blockers which blocks both alpha 1 and alpha 2. Now this blocks only alpha 1 receptor. First one is prazosin. Prazosin, its alpha 1 to alpha 2 selectivity ratio is 1000 to 1 and it blocks all the alpha receptors equally, alpha 1A, 1B and 1D receptors. And its half-life is 2 to 3 hours, which is not so much. Now, for alpha 1 blocker, it produces minimal uh, side effects like compared to the combined non-selective one. It has less or no tachycardia because there is no noradrenaline secreted here. And here, if you're giving alpha 1 receptor blocker, here arterioral dilation predominates venodilation. Therefore, the postural hypotension is also reduced. And it also decreases the cyclic AMP in the smooth muscle, which leads to vasodilation. Adverse effects is there's something called first dose phenomena you see here. You see first dose phenomena in case of prazosin. So its adverse effect, well, see what's first dose phenomena. When you give the first dose of prazosin, first dose it can induce a lot of side effects, like you see sudden postural hypotension, you see syncope attacks and all that. But you can counteract. But what you do in this case is that you give the initial dose as small. You should give a small dose. Start with a small dose first and give it at night just before the person goes to sleep. And after sometimes what happens is that the person develops tolerance towards this. So you can slowly increase the dose. And apart from that, it causes nasal stiffness. Tachycardia can be caused, but it is minimal. And it impairs ejaculation and it may cause impotence in male. Next is terazosin. Terazosin is similar to prazosin, that is, it is alpha 1 selective blocker, but its T half is longer, that is 12 hours. It has more bioavailability, that is 90%. And see, when it comes to benign prostatic hypertrophy, you're preferring terazosin. Two reasons. First one is due to its longer duration of action. Its T half is 12 hours, so you need to give it only once daily. And one more thing is it promotes apoptosis. Um, Apoptosis promoting effect on the prostate. So if you're having a hypertrophy of the prostate, you're giving terazosin, it will do more help. Next is doxazosin is similar to terazosin. It is used in hypertension and benign prostatic hypertrophy, and its T half is even more. It is 18 hours. Next is efluzocin. Efluzocin has a shorter T half, that is 3 to 5 hours. It is used for the symptomatic treatment of benign prostatic hypertrophy, and it is not approved as a antihypertensive. And also you cannot give it in along with treatment with erythromycin or ketoconazole and all that. It should not be given along with erythromycin, ketoconazole. Next is transmelosin. Transmelosin is very important. It is an alpha 1A blocker. It is uroselective. You see, alpha 1A receptor is present at the trigone of the bladder and on the prostate predominantly. So here it has only uroselective action. But one problem is that it does not have an apoptotic property. It does not promote apoptosis in the prostate, and that is the one reason why why we prefer terazosin and doxazosin over transmelosin. Not always, but still. And it does not have any significant change in the blood pressure or heart rate. So you give benign or you give transmelosin to those patients who are not hypotensive and who have benign prostatic hypertrophy. However, it has side effects like dizziness, retrograde ejaculation, and postural hypotension, although it's not so much. And its T half is 6 to 9 hours. Next is selective alpha 2 antagonist, alpha 2 blocker, which is euhimbine. Euhimbine is an alkaloid which is derived from the plant euhimbine. It also blocks the 5-HT receptor. Here you see BP, blood pressure, heart rate is all increased significantly due to increased sympathetic outflow and increased noradrenaline. Alpha 2 is blocked. Presynaptic alpha 2 blocking leads to the release of noradrenaline, which leads to tachycardia, increase in blood pressure, etc. And it also it increases the libido. That is why it is an aphrodisiac, but it is not used clinically for that. Next topic is the therapeutic uses of alpha blockers. Therapeutically, you have certain uses for alpha blockers. The most important is the treatment of pheochromocytoma, benign prostatic hypertrophy. Two important things. First, let's see pheochromocytoma. What is pheochromocytoma? Pheochromocytoma is adrenomedullary tumor where you have an increase in noradrenaline and adrenaline level. Definitive treatment, of course, is surgery. But in case you have a patient who have not undergone a treatment in pre-operative, not post, in pre-operative and non-operative cases, you can give them alpha blocker, that is phenoxybenzamine in particular. And along with phenoxybenzamine, you give beta blocker. Basically, you give propanolol, which is a non-selective beta blocker. So beta blocker is given in order to control the cardiac manifestations like tachycardia and arrhythmia that you have. However, one thing that you need to remember is that beta blocker alone should never be given in case of pheochromocytoma. Because if you're giving beta blocker, just see in your blood vessels, you're having alpha 1, alpha 2, and beta 1 receptor. So if you're giving beta blocker, it leads to unopposed action of alpha receptors. Now, this unopposed action of alpha receptor in blood vessel leads to further more vasoconstriction. Beta receptor in blood vessel cause vasodilation. Here you're having vasoconstriction by alpha. So unopposed action of alpha receptor will happen. So you will have further more vasoconstriction, which can even turn out to be fatal. And when you're doing surgery for pheochromocytoma, also you give alpha receptor blockers because you see, handling tumor results in it can lead to a sudden release of a large quantity of catecholamines. This large quantity of catecholamines can increase in BP. So what you do is you give IV phentolamine. Phentolamine, what's phentolamine? It's reversible, non-selective alpha blocker. So if you're giving IV phentolamine is given in order to control it. And metyrosine, something called metyrosine is used as an adjuvant in pheochromocytoma because it inhibits the enzyme tyrosine hydroxylase enzyme. So when tyrosine hydroxylase is inhibited, it reduces the synthesis of catecholamines. So metyrosine is used as an adjuvant in the treatment of pheochromocytoma. Second one is it is used in hypertensive emergencies. Like the first one thing that we already know is during the surgery of pheochromocytoma, you are using what? Phentolamine. Next one is used to control hypertensive crisis due to clonidine withdrawal or even in case of cheese reaction. Next is it is used in case of benign prostatic hyperplasia even. See, transurethral resection of the prostate is the commonly used method in order to relieve the symptoms of BPH. However, if you are giving a medical therapy, you need to give alpha 1 receptor blockers basically used here because alpha 1 is hyperplasia. Alpha 1 receptor blockers are given. So alpha 1 receptor is, it's uroselective. It is present predominantly in the trigone of the bladder and in the prostate. So it reduces the resistance to urinary flow. That is the one thing. But however, if you're giving prazosin, doxazosin, terazosin, and eflozocin, these are particularly useful in patients who have hypertension as well along with it. Transmulosin is preferred for BPH in normotensive patients. All of this we have already discussed. Just a summary. Here, this is taken from Tripathi. It is used in case of secondary shock. In secondary shock, you're giving alpha receptor blocker. First one is it contract vasoconstriction. Next one is it shifts the blood from pulmonary to systemic circuit. And also it draws the fluid from extravascular compartment to the vascular compartment. And in case of peripheral vascular diseases, see, alpha blockers, it do increase skin and to some extent muscle blood flow in normal individuals, but not peripheral vascular disease. Not in peripheral vascular disease, give, you cannot get a significant change there. But in some cases where you see vasoconstriction as a predominant feature, like in Raynaud's phenomenon and acrocyanosis and all, there you can get a symptomatic relief by giving alpha blocker. And it is given in case of congestive heart failure. You can get a symptomatic relief from prazosin and all that, but you cannot, it is not expected to give a long term prognosis. Next is, in case of treating impotence. See, alpha blockers can cause impotence, but they are used to treat impotence. Let's see how it is. So, in patients who are unable to achieve, ejaculation, you inject papaverin 2 to 3 milligram with or without phentolamine into the corpus cavernosum. So, this will produce penile tumescence, but you need to be very much skilled and trained in order to do that, because the side effects, in case the side effects is so much, see, it can lead to um, priapism, which occurs in 2 to 15% of the cases, and if that is not treated properly, it leads to permanent damage. But this is reversed by you aspirate blood from the corpus cavernosum, or you inject phenylephrine locally there. But if you are injecting repeatedly, that can also cause phenyl fibrosis. So this is done, but it should be resort for selected situation with proper facilities. So you're giving papaverin with or without phentolamine in order to induce penile erection. It is a treatment for impotence. Okay, this is supposed. Okay, this is a diagram showing adrenal pheochromocytoma. Uh, so pheochromocytoma, as we know, is producing a lot of catecholamines. So there is a tumor of the chromaffin cells in the adrenal gland medulla. So commonly it appears from the fourth to fifth decade of life. Its clinical presentation is headache, hypertension, palpitation, sweating, tremor, and all that. So this is a diagram just to show that. So that's it. This diagram didn't come out properly. It's a diagram which shows benign prostatic hypertrophy. So one thing you need to know is that benign prostatic BPH, what happens is that the prostate gland enlarges, there is hypertrophy or hyperplasia, what can happen there, and therefore the micturition is inhibited, meaning micturition is becoming more difficult. So if you're giving alpha blocker, that micturition becomes possible. There is a, see, alpha blocker is predominantly present in the trigone of the bladder. So if you're blocking that, the contraction, there won't be contraction, there is relaxation, some amount of relaxation, so urine micturition is possible, micturition is promoted. So that's a diagram. Prostate enlargement happens, so the urethra is getting compressed, so that is what's happening there. So that's it.